Mooring lines in poor condition cause cargo RoRo Endurance to break free. This is from the Maritime Executive, and it was published on the 9th of May, 2025. Worn out mooring lines that were not replaced in time are being called the reason a U.S. flagged cargo RoRo broke free from its dock and went out of control, hitting a pier and a dry dock in the port of Bremerhaven in Germany. Germany's Federal Bureau of Maritime Casualty Investigation, BSU, issued a report concluding that if the lines had been properly maintained, the incident might never have happened. BSU analyzes the incident involving the RoRo cargo ship Endurance 49,000 DWT, built in 1996 and operated by ARC, American Roll-On Roll-Off Carriers. The incident occurred March 13, 2021, when the vessel's mooring lines broke, causing her to drift through the harbor and collide with a dry dock, among other things. Investigators have now determined that the main cause of the line breakage was the worn mooring lines that were not replaced in good time due to an inadequate safety management system. Owing to the condition of the mooring lines, coupled with offshore winds, with gusts reaching up to 50 knots, the incident was most likely to happen despite preventative efforts from the ship's master. The Endurance was moored starboard side in Bremerhaven when the lines parted at about 9:45 a.m. Investigators were able to determine that the master was aware of the weather forecast and conscious of the potential danger of mooring line failure. For this reason, he had taken appropriate precautionary measures against line failure by requesting tugs. 19 minutes before the incident, at 9:24, the master had gone to the bridge because of the prevailing wind conditions at the berth. At 9:30, he requested tug assistance and instructed two of his deck officers to inspect the lines. When the lines failed, he issued instructions to drop the starboard anchor, start the main engine, and raise the lower vehicle ramp. Before the arrival of the tug, the 868-foot or 264-meter Endurance had drifted towards the dry dock. The first two tugs arrived about 8 minutes after the line failure and before the main engine was running, but could not prevent an collision. It was determined that the vessel was about 120 meters, less than 400 feet, meaning the tugs did not have enough time or space to prevent the contact. The line failure contributed to the material damage of the ship, the berth, and the dry dock. However, nobody was injured and no pollution was reported. The damage on the ship included a crack above the waterline in the shell plating on the port side, a hole in the bulbous bow, and a dent and paint abrasions on the stern on the starboard side. BSU concluded in its investigation that the mooring lines were in poor condition. The vessel's operator, ARC, had also arrived at the same conclusion in its internal investigation, determining that the condition of the lines may have not been consistent with requirements. The lines were damaged to such an extent that only 2 of the 14 lines met the requirements for mooring lines. Following the BSU investigation, actions have been taken to prevent similar occurrences. They include the procurement of berth analysis software by the Port of Bremerhaven, expected to be deployed this year. The software is designed to trigger alerts that would help the port inspect vessel mooring arrangements. The report also highlights that as of January 1, 2024, new international binding guidelines for the inspection and maintenance of mooring equipment, including lines, came into force. In particular, the vessel operator is now required to introduce a procedure for mooring line operations, as well as inspection and maintenance of mooring equipment, including mooring lines. A maintenance procedure must be implemented on the ship so that the worn lines are identified in good time before they fail. Maintenance must be carried out and documented on board. 50 knots of wind on the side of a ship this high, that's a lot, that's for sure. The master had already ordered tugs, but they didn't make it in time, unfortunately. He probably should have started the main engines, but that didn't happen yet, and she broke free. No pollution, nobody got injured. Could have been a lot worse, that's for sure. Luckily, the tugs were actually on the way. That probably helped in the long run, but they weren't quick enough to prevent it from happening at all. Live and learn. That's why these reports are so important. These investigations are so important. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. All right, guys, there it is. As always, thanks for watching. If you're new here and you like these kind of videos, don't forget to subscribe before you leave. I'll see you on the next one.